Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Glorious Galactic Core podcast. I have been away for about 3.5 months, apart from a little James Earl Jones tribute episode that I came back to do. For those of you that haven't been around, I had a baby, so it took a little hiatus to go and have a break and obviously support my wife and my lovely daughter, who I have kicked out of the room so I can have this lovely recording going on. So welcome back, everyone. It is fantastic to be back. Lots been going on since I've been away. But my goodness, do we have an amazing upcoming slate of episodes for the next, almost the next year or so. Everything that's been going on that's been announced recently, we're going to be chatting about that, Star Wars or the Marvel sort of sizzles and reels and trailers that have been released recently and their slate for the rest of this year and next year. Catching up on some stuff that I've missed over the last few months, which I'm going to be doing. This week, we're going to be chatting about Rings of Power Season 2. Next week, I've got some fantastic guests on to chat about the Marvel's Agatha All Along series, which I've managed to finally get around and watch as well. So I'm going to be chatting about that. And it's just fantastic to be back. As you've seen, we've got a brand new logo. We had a brand new intro video there. So it's good to be back and good to be seeing all of these things. I do, of course, have some familiar guests joining me today. If you've seen this show, you know that they're friends of the show. They are not exactly unfamiliar faces, and they've gotten up nice and early on a Sunday morning at their time, obviously nice and sort of early evening my time. But please welcome to the show 2/3 of the best looking podcast that I've ever seen. It's JD and Dave from So Sidious. How you doing, guys?
Wonderful.
Nice.
Thanks for having us, dude. Yes, it's always a pleasure.
It's really good to have you guys back. Shame that Caleb couldn't join us. I hear he's been a naughty boy and had some privilege of vote, so he's tied up in a basement right now and not available to join us today.
Classic Caleb.
That's very accurate.
How are you guys doing? Obviously, I've been away for a few months, so I know that I've still been chatting to you both individually and stuff like that. But how's your podcast been the last few months? Obviously, I've been listening to it. It's been keeping me going through the last 3.5 months whilst I've been on my hiatus. So, but how's it been for you guys?
It's great, man. I've been enjoying it more and more. I think I'm really thankful for David and Caleb. I just think they're just really good couple of dudes to do it with. I think we we're on the same page so much, and when we might debate about things, but we never have issues with it. I don't know. Everything's so smooth, and we just get down and have a lot of fun. It's been awesome.
Yeah, it has been a little smoother, I feel like, in that regards. It's been easier to just kind of go with the flow and kind of all agree on something, whatever direction we kind of want to go with. But yeah, it's been good. We've been obviously covered the Penguin, which that was fun, but I think we're wanting to do more creative custom episodes rather than just covering episodes of shows. I still enjoy that, but it does get repetitive after a while, especially if you're watching similar shows. So yeah, we're still trying to branch out a little bit here and there. JD's been holding it down on TikTok for us. I don't know where we're at, probably 15,000 by now, if not just under.
Oh yeah, 15.5, baby.
There you go.
Absolutely storming it, and doing some giveaways as well. I've seen JD just for US people only, sadly. Sorry, just our little in joke, because JD very kindly, not intentionally, obviously I won a little TikTok thing with them that they were doing, and JD, bless his heart, still sent the comics over to me even though I'm in the UK. And then everything he's done competition wise since then has always been US only because he doesn't want to pay international shipping. Oh, yeah. Who can blame him? He's not a lottery winner. He's not Donald Trump. He doesn't have billions. So bless his heart. But yeah, JD been holding it down on TikTok, man. Absolutely loving it. And because of that, you've been getting more comic reviews on your show as well, haven't you? More sort of comic side things going on.
Yeah, the influx of TikTok or listeners are very comic oriented. So I love doing the comic reviews. I can't, David and Caleb, it's not their freaking main hobby like it is mine. So we can't do a ton of it when I totally understand. But we've been doing a couple more, and I'm very thankful for, especially David holding it down and willing to do some comic reviews. And every now and then, it's awesome.
Yeah. And we've got one planned, haven't we, JD, for sort of early next year. We're going to be having a look at the Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong comics that came out. I know, Dave, me and you did sort of like a special presentation where we had a chat about it when we saw the news about it. So
yeah.
because it was so very random. I was like, what the hell's going on here? So yeah, so it's great to do a bit more comic stuff. I'm planning on obviously having a bit of a shake up of things myself. It's not just going to be pure like reviews of what's out right now. I want to have a bit more nerd talks and stuff like that, and just chat about shows in general and franchises in general rather than anything else. So going to be really good to obviously see what's going on. But since you guys are our special guests, please let everyone know at home exactly where we can find the Why So Sidious podcast.
You got it, Dave.
I got this. Let me clear out. Yeah, you can find us Instagram, TikTok, and X at Why So Sidious Pod. We've got a YouTube page up and running, which we've actually converted to last 2 or 3 months. Every episode's been live. So instead of doing just, recordings on Riverside and then uploading it to YouTube, we just said, why don't we just do it live? So all of our episodes are on our YouTube page live. You can always join we're trying to make it more consistent with finding us Monday nights on our time to join us so people can actually plan on joining the live. We are still working on getting that schedule consistent, but that is where you will be able to find us. And yeah, comic book needs, all that stuff. Again, like Andy said on TikTok, JD is absolutely nailing that. So if you're a big comic book fan, I would recommend checking out our page over there.
Yeah, live episodes are the new recording episodes, aren't they? So we're all doing it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's absolutely great to catch you guys live sometimes because you happen to obviously because we're like 8 hours apart. So when you guys are going live, I'm sometimes up in the middle of the night feeding the baby. So it's great to just whack you guys on the phone in the background, and me and the baby get to watch you guys' handsome faces. And she's cooing away when she sees love. No, it's all good.
No, we appreciate you joining. It's always exciting. We're like, hey, we got Andy in the chat. He's up. It's always a good time. So we appreciate you.
Clan Brandalorian tuning in to the live stream, buddy. Amazing. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you doing it. Clan Brandalorian, always worth tuning into as well. And we have a special collab coming up, by the way, for Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Every episode of the show, we're going to be collabing together, and we're going to be going through all of that. And so make sure you're tuning in for that. It's going to be exciting to go through and chat about that week by week with Clan Brandalorian. Right. So we have got some good stuff to chat about. We're going to jump into what has been quite big news over the last couple of weeks in terms of all the Star Wars and Marvel shows, sort of sizzle reels, trailers, everything like that for Disney Plus that's been dropping. Great time to be a Star Wars and Marvel fan, I think, after the last couple of years of everything sort of hitting up. Okay, it's more going to be Marvel-centric over the next year or so than it is Star Wars, but I think some really good sort of Marvel content is going to be coming back and getting everything back to where it was. Let's chat about Star Wars first, because we've got Skeleton Crew dropping in December. How are you guys feeling about this show? Because it is a little bit different from what we've seen. It's got that sort of 80s kid treasure hunting vibe sort of thing going on. So JD, hit me up with how you're feeling about it.
Skeleton Crew, for the positive side of things, I think it looks unique and different, and I could say fun. On the other side, I'm losing a little trust in Star Wars, and the premise doesn't exactly seem to be something that really excites me as far as Star Wars goes. So we will see. And yeah, that's about all my thoughts on Skeleton Crew. I hope it's good. I really hope it's good. And then we can get, if that's good, then you get Andor season 2 for a solid 1-2 punch to bring some Star Wars content back. That's, really good, really watchable.
Dave, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I don't know what to fully expect. It seems like, it's definitely kids centric as far as the aim of what we're looking at to get, which I'm fine with. Star Wars knocks it out of the park with kids centric shows and whatnot. So it feels like it's got that vibe. It doesn't feel like Andor. It feels like something definitely more aimed at a younger crowd. But you know what? It's Star Wars. It looks like it's got a Goonies vibe to it. So I'm not skipping over it. I'm gonna watch it. I'm not expecting to be blown away by it. I'm not expecting to love it and want to cover it every episode, but I'm certainly gonna give it the chance. And maybe it surprises me and I do want to. But I'm definitely going to watch it because, again, it's just Star Wars. It does the trailer, again, it didn't grab me, but it's got kind of that magical feel to it a little bit. So, it's got me curious, at least. I'm intrigued to see what Jude Law's character is all about here. So I'll definitely be tuning in. I just don't have hope, or I don't have expectations it's going to blow me away, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much on the same ilk on that one. Like, I'm not expecting like masses of high quality Star Wars content from this one. It's the trailer's been interesting and piqued my interest enough that obviously I really Star Wars, because I'm going to fucking watch it anyway if it's Star Wars.
Right.
But yeah, I was never sold completely on Jude Law being a Jedi, and obviously we've had a few clips with him here, so I want to see how his character goes. If he takes the whole sort of maybe Kanan Jarrus approach of trying to hide himself being a Jedi for a while, or if and then he comes out, or whether he's just a Jedi straight from the off and just go down that sort of route. So really interested to see that. That's going to be out at the start of December, as JD mentioned. Andor season 2, that was the big news of the last couple of weeks for Star Wars. 22nd of April, that's going to be released. Dave, are we not excited for this? I mean, season 1 was that one that it was a slow burner that built up to be something really, really great, especially once we got to the prison episodes. And then, we know that this is going to end. They said about 15 minutes before we meet Andor in Rogue One. So, are you excited for this? The time jumps and everything. K2SO's back and Krennic's back. We're getting the lot in this one, aren't we?
Yes, Yavin. We're getting apparently a bigger breakdown on Yavin's background than we've really gotten before in other projects, which I've always kind of liked the concept of Yavin 4 out there. And I am very excited for this. I got to rewatch Andor season 1. I actually still haven't rewatched it since it first came out, because I think I rewatched every episode waiting for the next one to come out. So I did watch it twice, but I haven't gone back in a while and checked it out. So that's on the list. Yeah, season 1 was incredible, man. I mean, Diego Luna killed it. Andy Serkis's character in that prison episode was incredible, and the episodes leading up to it. Stellan Skarsgård's dialogue, his monologues he had throughout, obviously, were just iconic. The lines about sacrifice and everything. I mean, it was just such a well done show. So I don't know how you can't be excited to see what they have coming in season 2. I know we've got every 3 episodes we skip a year, so we're covering 4 years. So I'm interested to see how they do that. That's not something we see a lot as far as a show layout. We saw House of the Dragon do somewhat similar, like every couple episodes they jumped 4 years, 8 years is kind of random. But I'm curious to see what they do with this. But I trust Tony Gilroy 100%, so I am super excited for this.
Just before we get your thoughts, JD, Clan Mandalorian here. He's interested to see what different kind of Jedi that Jude Law's character is. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I just never think of Jude Law as a Jedi, to be fair, whenever I look at him. I haven't always been overly sold by his performances in films. And I'm trying to remember, outside of like Captain Marvel, what sort of sci-fi stuff he's done, or anything, or futuristic stuff he's done. So it's going to be interesting to see. So we'll have to see how that goes down. JD.
Well, with Jude Law, I think I'm on the other side. I think he really can do. I think he could do a really good Jedi. I think he does kind of have that demeanor. But we'll see. Yeah, that's just me. I think if I think of him in Captain Marvel, he does seem like that kind of character that could do a Jedi. I don't know, kind of more of a Qui-Gon behaving type of Jedi. But my question is, where were these Jedi during Force Awakens and stuff like that? Because it's just that Star Wars has been all over the place. Not much cohesiveness between projects. Seems like they're just throwing things out there. So if you have this post Return of the Jedi era Jedi stuff, then it's like, well, how does that make sense?
Is that when this is? Sorry, I don't think I know when this is set timeline.
This is set in like the Mandalorian era, so alongside things like Ahsoka and Book of Boba Fett and that time era.
Okay, all right.
So that brings the question, where were all these Jedis, the teachers of the kids? They were veterans, so where were they? But then you also hear that they might be in a far unknown part of the galaxy, so they weren't anywhere near the Empire or the First Order or whatever. So if they explain that well, then that's fine. But I think Jude Law could do a Jedi. I feel like I might be in the minority, and not a lot of people are stoked about it. I'm not stoked about it. I just think he could do a Jedi.
Well, only a couple more weeks to find out, to be fair. So, JD, your thoughts on Andor season 2?
Yeah, very excited. I'm a sucker for interconnectivity, so I'm really excited. It leads right up to Rogue One. You got K2SO, you got Orson Krennic. That is really exciting. I really hope and I expect there to be a lot of Death Star lore. They're going to be figuring out that there is a Death Star being constructed and stuff like that. I'm really just looking forward to that, tying into the big picture of Star Wars. And that's just aside from all the amazing writing and acting that we get through the time jumps. That seems really strange and different, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like a gimmick at all. I feel like they have a really good reason to do that. Since it's so weird, I think there's a really good reason to do that. It's not like you are going to write a show around just trying to skip years in time. So I think they got something cooking up that's really cool. Season 1 gained all the trust possible, so I'm just really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to a good Star Wars project again, after being a little disappointed by The Acolyte and not being super excited about Skeleton Crew. I'm glad to have something in this universe that I'm really looking forward to, you know.
Speaking of looking things to look forward to, the last bit of Star Wars news I'm going to mention is big rumor in the last week that they are potentially developing episodes 10, 11, and 12 to continue the Skywalker saga. I don't know whether this is in place of the Rey New Jedi Order film that was going to be coming, or whether it's in addition to that, and that's sort of like a film that connects the two. But I personally can just ask them to leave the Skywalker saga the fuck alone right now. We don't need any more of it. If you want to make standalone movies that interact after that timeline and just sort of are their own one-off stories, but can have interconnecting characters between different films, that's fine. Tell your own standalone story, but please, just no more Skywalker saga. It's not needed. I'm not that keen on the story that was told as many people after episode 6 anyway, for it being the Skywalker saga. But I don't think we need episodes 10, 11, and 12. We were always told it was done now with the sequel trilogy. So guys, any thoughts on a potential sequel trilogy?
Yeah, we kind of talked about this in our Week in Geek, or I forgot what it was. We briefly discussed this news though. And yeah, I just don't get the point, I guess. If you're going to start a new trilogy. But if you're calling it episodes 10 through 12, you would think that it's building off of the Skywalker saga. And I don't have interest in them continuing the Skywalker saga trilogy. We're already past. The only way I would have had that interest is if we were still dealing with Han, Leia, and Luke. We're obviously not doing that. So if we're going to start a new trilogy, don't ride the coattails of the saga. Just start a new trilogy and start up a new whatever you need to do. But the concept of 10, 11, 12 and continuing the story does not bite my interest. I'm more interested in the Rey trilogy, and I'm not even that interested in that one. But I think I see much more of a point in a new trilogy with Rey as like a Jedi teacher than I do 10 through 12 at this point.
Yeah, like Dave said, it's just I would be excited for 10 through 12. That's fine. But as soon as you start saying it's a Skywalker thing, that just makes me feel like it doesn't make sense at all. What do we have? Another New Hope, where you got another Skywalker that's been hidden somewhere, because it has to follow the lineage. If we're talking about Skywalkers, what does Luke have a hidden son somewhere? Like, are we just doing the thing that Rey is calling herself a Skywalker now, and it's about her story, but she's not really a Skywalker? So I don't know. I really agree with Dave that if a trilogy is fine, that's great, but continuing the Skywalker theme seems weird. Now, that I'm still kind of excited for it, though. I'm not going to lie. I'm really excited to have a trilogy of Star Wars. I'm excited to see the opening scroll and that Star Wars score hit. That's one of the coolest things ever in the theater. And I want to trust them. They haven't earned my trust. Like, they've actually done the opposite for the past however many years. But at some point, it just feels like so obvious. These people are professionals who are behind the creative team of all this. At some point, you have to learn your lessons. You have to start developing a long-term plan and a big picture plan and have a blueprint for these things that aren't just like a bunch of random stuff they're putting out. And a couple things make me believe that could be true. One being Simon Kinberg being attached to it. He's a huge Star Wars fan, a giant fan of the franchise, and he wrote a ton of Rebels, and that's really good Star Wars storytelling there. He has been on a lot of great projects, producer on Logan and Deadpool and Wolverine. And I just feel like there's no freaking way that someone signed on to another Star Wars project without going in there and saying, like, look, what has happened with all these previous creators that have signed on and then quit? Like, why did they do that? What happened? I need to make sure this happens in order to sign on in the first place. I think that would be ridiculous if you didn't have that conversation. If I was Simon Kinberg, that's what I'm going to ask them. And there's no way I could see people signing on, especially for a trilogy, not just one project, if you didn't have that conversation. So I'm really hoping that, the plan is being laid out in a much more thoughtful way. And the Rey thing, from what I know, is separate. Apparently she's just got her own movie. I didn't even hear about her having her own trilogy, but then you hear about she's going to be potentially like the Obi-Wan of this new trilogy. And that puts another coin in the basket of maybe they are planning something more interconnected, more cohesive, So, and I think that'd be awesome. I really like the Rey character. All the problems with her trilogy is whatever, but her as a character, I really liked. I'm excited to see her on the big screen, and I'm excited if she does play that Obi-Wan character. So there's a bunch of silver lining for me. I just think the Skywalker thing seems a little too, you're just reaching too far into the same basket that we've been dealing with for a while that they haven't executed on very well. Darth Vader's gone. Luke is gone. Now there's a hidden Skywalker, or is it Rey? So I'm confused, but I'd lie if I say I'm still not excited.
Fair. I think that's fair. Amy over on YouTube saying, I want Finn and Poe adventures, which who could say no to that, to be fair? I'd love to see a bit more Finn and Poe together. They were pretty good. Although I prefer episode 7 Finn and Poe together rather than like episode 9 Finn and Poe, for example. I don't know why, they just seem to have a better chemistry for me early on in the trilogy rather than later in the trilogy.
Dude, I loved them in Force Awakens. I absolutely loved that duo. I liked Poe a lot more in episode 7 than 9 too. He was a little bit more annoying in episode 9 on some of the lines and back and forth they had. I still liked them both, but I loved them in Force Awakens. That was why that was another thing I was so disappointed with the sequel is I thought they had really cool characters in it. So I thought they could have done a lot more with the characters. That I thought they made a lot of cool original characters. I liked Kylo, I liked Rey, I liked Finn and Poe. So it was a shame that we didn't get to see a better story for Finn and Poe. So yeah, that'd be cool. I don't think they'll do it, but I'd watch.
They have a habit of filling everything in with comic book series now, don't they?
Yes.
So which is a little bit annoying, but at the same time, comic book is a great medium to tell some of the best stories that we've actually had, and it's just not known to the wider public, unfortunately, because I hate this whole concept of if it's not in a film, I'm not going to watch it or read it sort of attitude. Like, not everyone's into comics, not everyone's into reading novels and stuff, which is fine, and so like I get why some people say it, but at the same point, I'm like, don't be lazy. Like, if you want to read a good story, there's no reason why you can't go to the comics and novels and read those.
Yeah, I enjoy that because they started doing that with the sequel characters. So we got a Poe background comic run and Kylo Ren and the whole Knights of Ren deal. We got a background issue on that. So I really enjoy it. I think it only becomes an issue when you absolutely have to read that for the movie to make sense. That is when it becomes a problem. But if there's just more info and a cooler fleshed out backstory in the comics, then I like it personally. I like going in there and finding out more details than we already knew in the movie. So
yeah, but Star Wars books and comics have not been very good in my opinion lately. It's been a while since we've had a good Star Wars book. It's been a while since we've had a good Star Wars comic. I haven't read all of them. I could be, missing some stuff. And I don't like when books and comics connect so closely to the movies. I like when they flesh out the background, like Dave was saying. I love that. If you want some more on a certain character, that's actually a really cool, like the Kylo Ren comics, the Knights of Ren. Those are pretty sweet. But I think if you're making a comic or books, just do your own story. That's all those older Star Wars books are so freaking good, and they are just their own story. But funny enough, I say that because I think Love and I are, maybe David, we don't know, but Love and I are probably going to review Shadows of the Sith, which totally seems, it almost seems like it was created just to correct the mistakes of the Rise of Skywalker. Like a couple chapters in and you're like, oh, they're just trying to make sense of all these screw ups of the Rise of Skywalker. So that might take a couple months.
You could say that's a lot of what Star Wars have been trying to do lately anyway.
Right.
Some of the storylines or the plots of The Mandalorian, of the Bad Batch, is just trying to correct the whole thing leading to the end of episode 9 and filling out the story and making it make more sense rather than it just appearing out of nowhere. So can't blame them for going back and trying to like course correct in books and novels, to be fair, to a certain extent. But at the same point, it's like, just tell a good story straight away. Don't spend millions of dollars and books and comics and animated TV series to correct the mistake you already made. That's just unbelievable that you've got to do that. But at the same point, I'm never going to complain about more content from Star Wars because it doesn't really matter what it is. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to read it. I think we talked about it before, but the Darth Vader series that picks up right after episode 3, to me, one of the best comic book runs of modern Star Wars times anyway.
Amazing.
Fills in so much exposition and story of what he goes through and how he feels and the relationship between him and the Emperor. which in the Lords of the Sith novel is sort of touched on quite a lot as well, and the almost disdain that the Emperor just has for Vader, really, and just doesn't really care. He's not really his friend anymore. He's not raising him up and mentoring him like he did as Anakin. He's just like, look, you're my bitch, go and run along and do what you're fucking told.
Yes. Training wheels are off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that's all Star Wars news that we've got for now. So we're going to chat about all the Marvel series that we've been told are going to be dropping from now until the end of 2025. So we're just going to run through them quickly when they're getting released. And guys, just give me a quick word on how your anticipation levels are for these projects. So we're kicking off. We've got a trailer for it. What If Season 3 dropping right before Christmas. You guys know I'm actually quite a big What If fan. Okay, Season 2 maybe wasn't on the nose as Season 1 was, but the trailer for Season 3 looked absolutely dope as hell. Dave, what are you thinking about What If?
Dude, I did not see the trailer drop for Season 3.
My man.
Didn't see that at all. So I guess I got some homework to do. So I am hit or miss on What If. I really enjoyed Season 1. I thought they could have used cooler concepts with it, but I still enjoyed it. I enjoyed Season 1. I was ready for Season 2. I liked the Ultron kind of storyline they had at the end of Season 1. I really enjoyed that. There was some creativity. And then, Season 2, I don't get why they did a What If series, which is the concept of it is to think of what if, all these crazy possibilities. What if this and that? What if this and that? And it turned into half of it being like a Captain Carter storyline in Season 1 and Season 2. And it more turned into like Captain Carter and the What If multiverse or something, instead of just bunch of crazy concepts left and right. So I felt like the creativity was lacking a lot in the different storylines. That being said, there were still about 3 episodes in Season 2 that I really enjoyed still. So I still, enjoyed it. I just thought I felt like they dropped the ball because it could have been so much more. But again, I liked Season 1. Season 2 was somewhat, and I am still going to watch Season 3. So I'm very intrigued to go watch this trailer now. But yeah, I felt like they could have done a much better job.
JD, any what if thoughts?
I second everything Dave said. Yeah, I'm really not a huge fan of the what ifs. It ranges from things I really don't care about that really didn't get creative enough for me to care. Like it's called What If, like do crazier things. But then there was a bunch of really, really cool episodes. Doctor Strange, Marvel Zombies, the Ultron episode, probably the coolest. And I didn't even watch Season 2 because I'm just not, I'm really not invested in these. Season 1 pretty much told me that they're not willing to go. 3 out of 10 maybe episodes were really solid, and that's just not enough for me to dive in. So it's something I'm gonna wait, and I'm gonna hear other people's, if other people are raving about how amazing it was, and I will check it out for sure, but I'm probably not even gonna put it on unless I hear some stuff like that. So we'll see.
Well, a what if less Christmas coming up for JD's household. So next we move on then into late January 29th, the animated Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man series. I'll watch it, but personally I'm not like rushing to watch this one. It's not something I'm going to be like dying to see, but it's something that, knowing that my wife is a big Spider-Man fan as well, that we will probably sit down and watch at some point. JD, any thoughts on this one?
Look, it's just animated doesn't speak to me that much. There are some amazing animated projects, Clone Wars being the best ever. Like that's the coolest animated thing ever. I think it's freaking awesome. It kind of transcends the animation platform. We have seen Spider-Man origin stories over and over. We've seen it in live action. We've seen even in the intro to the Spider-Verse. We got plenty of Spider-Man content, and the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I'm, I guess, kind of negative on this again, but I don't need a new Spider-Man story from the start of his story, and it's animated, so it's not really for me. I'm not really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to. I love Spider-Man. I absolutely love Spider-Man. I just think this is going back. We're stepping back a little bit. We're just going to do another Spider-Man story, and it's animated. And what really can you do that's that different? You better have an amazing story or something, or else it's just another Spider-Man origin story with, a couple new Spider-Man stories. Plus, I got the comics, man. Plenty of Spider-Man comics I haven't even read yet. So if I'm looking for Spider-Man content, that this freshman year this is not where I'm going to. Sorry.
Fair enough. It's all right. Don't ever be sorry, JD. It's okay. You can be negative if you want.
You
It's
should
fine.
be sorry.
Yeah, exactly. How dare you come on my show and be negative, you bastard? It's fine. Dave, what about you?
Yeah, so
And remember to be nice.
I love it. No. So with animation, a big deal for me is the animation style. That tends to be a really major piece of if I'm invested in an animated movie or animated show. Like I love the DC animated universe movies. The most recent Crisis 3-part movie series. It took me a minute because the animation style is a little different. I wasn't crazy about it at first. I'm getting more used to it. Rebels. That probably would beat out Clone Wars for me, but for the animation style, I really didn't enjoy the animation style in Rebels, and so it dropped a little bit. So that's one thing. I don't really know what this fully is going to look like. I'm not like insanely looking forward to this, but I will say I love Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man stories. It looks like we're getting all the Spider-Man rogues. Like we're getting Norman Osborn. Vincent D'Onofrio is voicing Kingpin. Charlie Cox is voicing Daredevil. So we're getting in an interconnected universe, and it feels like almost like I grew up on the 90s Spider-Man show, the animated show, and they went all over the place. Doctor Strange was in that. Like they had a bunch of people popping in and out of that Spider-Man animated show. So if they can get creative with this, I'm going to be tuning in. I don't expect it to be Clone Wars levels, but I think it could be fun here and there.
I had no idea Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio were voicing. That is really awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I hope it's the same animation style as the Spider-Verse stuff. I think I've seen some stuff on it. I think
it was in the sizzle trail that Disney Plus released. There was some clips of it.
Yeah, I saw a quick glimpse.
Well, and like Intro to the Spider-Verse I really like that. I love that, especially for animation. So I mean, they could get really creative and do something really fun. It is Spider-Man. I didn't know Kingpin and Daredevil in there, so I'm a tiny bit more excited as I was as of 2 minutes ago.
There you go. Let's go. We're all ready.
Indeed. Let's fucking go.
What about you, though, Andy?
Again, it's something I'm not going to rush to watch, to be fair. I will watch it. Again, it's taken me a long time to get into animated stuff. Even as like the biggest Star Wars fan I am, it took me a few years to get into watching Clone Wars because I'm just not a massive animated fan. But since then, to be fair, when it's come to like Star Wars and Marvel stuff, even if it is animated, I normally watch it pretty much straight away. So I will get around to watching this one, but I won't rush if I'm like a bit busy or anything like that. So again, I don't think it's going to impact my love or anything like that for Marvel up or down or anyway. If I love it, it's a bonus for me. If I don't like it, then it's not going to change how I feel about Marvel overall anyway. So one of those ones that if it's great, cool, it's a bonus. If it isn't, then it's not something I was that worried about in the first place. So
yep, exactly.
And then we move on to probably the second biggest Marvel film of next year, Captain America Brave New World. So if you want something to do on Valentine's Day, if you want to sit on that back row and get off with your partner and not pay attention to a film, this is the lovers film to go and watch, apparently. So Captain America Brave New World, we've seen a few trailers now. I haven't seen the second trailer that recently got dropped that apparently had a bit more reveals of what was happening in it. I've only stuck to the first one. That's my intention until the film comes out. That's how I'd like to do it now. Watch the first trailer and kind of skip the rest. But JD, just sort of quick thoughts on this one, because I know you guys have been covering this on your show too.
To be honest, I'm really excited. I'm really excited for the MCU to get back to more of a grounded situation, something that's more core to the MCU story moving forward. I think it'll be important, unlike many projects that we've seen in the last few years. I'm going to miss Chris Evans as Captain America. I loved Falcon. I loved Anthony Malkin as Falcon. I don't know if that'll translate to him as Captain America that well, but I think there's a chance it does, and that's fine. I think there's a lot of exciting stuff in this that they shoved into this movie. Obviously, Red Hulk. I'm really excited what they got planned for Red Hulk. And I am really excited to see what they're doing with this celestial poking out of the Indian Ocean. They said they're going to be mining adamantium from that, and that is just so nerdy and sounds really fun. We also hear about characters from the Edward Norton Incredible Hulk movie coming into this movie, like Betty Ross and the leader, who was the guy who fell down after they tried to fix the Hulk, or maybe after they made Abomination and the blood started dripping into his head started bubbling. That dude is in there. So they're bringing all this Hulk lore back. And I would love to see Bruce Banner. I'd give it like under 10% chance he's in there, probably under 5, to be honest. That would be so cool. I mean, you have all these Hulk characters back, so I have a lot of questions about that, but I'm really excited to see what they're cooking with that side of things. And of course, it does have the Winter Soldier spy espionage thriller, and that excites me. I think there's a lot to look forward to here. So yeah.
Nice. Dave.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this. So Red Hulk looks great. Captain America, Sam Wilson, he looks good. I like the sonic booms we're seeing in these scenes, him just tearing through with those Wakandan wings. So I think there's going to be some cool action scenes, the adamantium for sure too. All of that. There's a lot of stuff to grab onto, but the thing that gets me most is the tone we've been seeing. And it's like JD said, it's the first feel in an MCU movie that felt as much like the Winter Soldier since that dropped. Like, it's got that Winter Soldier vibe. It's the political espionage, whatever's going on. We got the presidential assassination mixed with everything else. The tone of this is what gets me the most excited. So I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, me too. Definitely looking forward to this one. As you both mentioned it already, everything about from the espionage to it to Tiamat sticking out of the ocean and finally getting that addressed after 3 or 4 years. And I think this is going to be great. I was one of, in my circle of friends and stuff, I knew one of the few that liked the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV series. I liked Bucky and Sam together. I think they bounced off each other really well. I want to see more Bucky, although I am a Winter Soldier character fan more than a Bucky fan.
Yeah.
But we're going to get onto the Thunderbolts in a second, talk about Bucky. But yeah, I'm really excited for this film. Probably going to be the second biggest film because there's a slightly bigger film coming out later in the year. Not Thunderbolts, but we'll talk about Thunderbolts now since we've been mentioning it. Obviously, a couple of trailers and stuff like that coming out. JD, hit me. You were going to say something.
I was going to ask you, do you think that there will be Skrulls in Captain America 4? Because at the end of the Secret Invasion, the president's like, yeah, these Skrulls are here. Anyone from outside of Earth is our enemy. We're going to like do whatever we can to get rid of these Skrulls. What do you think?
I think probably not, because they seem to have a lot going on as it is. When you've got Sam Wilson and the old super soldier guy whose name escapes me for some reason,
Isaiah
that we saw in the that's it, Isaiah. The whole story with him. Obviously, Red Hulk. You've got the Thinker. What was it? Giancarlo Esposito's character coming into it as well. There's a lot going on in this film and a lot for them to cover with Tiamat as well. And I think there's too much going on to then include the Skrulls as well.
I agree. It's just, where do you address this Skrull issue?
Yeah.
It's not a movie like this or Thunderbolts even, but it doesn't seem like they fit anywhere. It just seems like they got to be here somewhere at some time.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's hard for them to address it before Secret Wars or even Doomsday, to be fair. Like, where do you slot it in with everything going on? But I think there's too much going on in this film to include the Skrulls situation as well. And I think they're trying to go back to what they did with maybe when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. used to be canon before it went off on its own sort of thing, where what happens in the film affects the TV series, but what happens in the TV series doesn't necessarily translate to what's going on in the films or affect the film plot. So I think maybe I feel like that's the route they're going to head down again, because they want to have the films are bigger than the TV series, clearly, in terms of the audience that they get. So I think they don't want to have too much impact of the TV series now and that go across to the big film, unless it's obviously there's going to be characters that come Doomsday and Secret Wars, the street level characters, TV series characters are going to end up on the big screen. But I feel like any major plot lines or anything too major, they're going to restrict that now to films affecting TV series rather than vice versa. So, like Ironheart, for example, is going to come out. We know she's going to have a bigger role moving forward, and so she will end up on the big screen at one point. But I don't necessarily feel like what's happening in the films is going to what happens in her series will affect the bigger picture of the film timeline, if you know what I mean. So that's how I feel they're going to go about it anyway. But
that makes sense.
We mentioned Thunderbolts. Great cast for this one. A mix of characters I didn't necessarily thought that we pulled together, but obviously Yelena, as we mentioned, Bucky, is it Red Soldier? Is it? Sorry, her dad,
Red Guardian.
Sorry, Red Guardian. Yeah, Ghost. Who else is there?
Taskmaster,
Agent, US Agent, and Sentry is obviously going to be
Sentry. There you go.
A stellar cast, really, for the MCU in terms of the characters that have come through, even if some of them may be slightly forgotten. But JD, your Thunderbolt thoughts quickly?
Man, I'm really, really excited about this. I first of all, I think it's going to be the title will change to Dark Avengers, right? There's an asterisk. Like, why the hell is there an asterisk? I think Captain America 4 will do something, end credit, something where Valentina's like, says it, you guys are my Dark Avengers, something, and then boom, you get the reveal that the title has changed. The Dark Avengers, it seems like an event film, first of all. That's how they presented it at Comic-Con. It was very much flashed up, like every other Phase film was just put up on the screen. You could see it, but with Thunderbolts, they blacked out the screen, music, presentation, boom, Thunderbolts, which is what they did with Avenger films in the past. So there's that. Red Hulk, I think Thunderbolt Ross, right? His Thunderbolt Ross, I think he'll be in the Thunderbolts potentially. If not, whatever. But Valentina also, we got the Stark Tower. She's the one who bought Stark Tower.
Yeah, it does seem like that. I mean, not confirmed, but it does look like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like a 90% confirmed thing. Yeah. And it just, I'm really, really excited. What's interesting in the trailers is they have given us nothing about what the actual story or conflict really is. The trailers have been about the team dynamic, the teams kind of getting together, fighting each other, show Sentry. And I really we have no clue what the conflict is. So that could be anything. Maybe it is a bunch of Hulks. You never know. Sentry, really excited to see what they do with Sentry. And again, he was on the Dark Avengers in the comics. All the other characters were not Dark Avengers. So that's kind of random. But the dynamic between all these characters is awesome. I love Yelena and her dad. Red Guardian is hilarious. David Harbour is always a ton of fun. You got Winter Soldier in this trailer. If you haven't seen the second trailer, you'll see it, but it's so cool. He's coming up behind these cars like the Terminator, flipping shotguns, doing all kinds of awesome stuff on this bike. And it looks like just a lot of fun, and I think it's going to be real juicy too.
Dave?
Super juicy. The juiciest, maybe. That that part of the trailer I think got me the most hype, just seeing Bucky actually looking like the Winter Soldier again. Because Bucky honestly is one of my favorite characters in the MCU, starting with the Winter Soldier, but even after that in Civil War when he's fighting it and whatnot, I love Sebastian Stan's portrayal. He's just one of my favorite characters, which is why I love the Falcon and Winter Soldier so much. I just am really excited to see what they do with him in this movie. I really hope they use him to the full potential again, and I think they're gonna. But overall, it just looks fun. The dynamic of the team, it looks like Suicide Squad, maybe with a better plot, more, airtight kind of deal going on there. But I don't know. I'm expecting it to be fun. And I like JD's theory about the Dark Avengers thing. It would make sense with the Avengers Tower seemingly being purchased, which brought me a question I was thinking of. We all jumped on Stark Wars podcast.
Yeah.
He had a Who Bought the Avengers Tower episode where all these different podcasts joined on for about 15 minutes, gave their takes and why. Andy, what was your argument that you were going with about who
Justin Hammer?
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
Which I hope he comes back soon.
Armor Wars, if they decide to actually get their ass in gear and do it.
Yeah.
I was hoping Kingpin. I think that would have been so cool if Kingpin bought the tower, because there's a lot of similarities with the Thunderbolts and Dark Avengers story and the Devil's Reign story, which we hear might play into Spider-Man 4. And basically, whether it was the Dark Avengers or Kingpin, they had the same goal: shutting down heroes with a team of villains that were like, I think he was even calling them the Thunderbolts in the Devil's Reign. And he would fit right into those shoes. Valentina's not the most exciting person to have bought that tower. But it would have served the same purpose as Kingpin. He's rich. He could have afforded it probably. It's not Kingpin. It's Valentina, but I'm just going off here on a little tangent.
I'm going to skip through some of the projects that, the more lesser ones, and we don't know an awful lot about them because we've actually been talking about Marvel for quite a while now, but there's two more big projects that are coming out next year that I just want to touch on. So as we mentioned, we've got Ironheart coming out in 24th of June. I wasn't blown away by her in Wakanda Forever, but seeing some of the clips as well, it looks almost like a bit of the modern day Power Rangers type suit going on. So we'll have to see a bit more info about what comes with her. And apparently she's got a Tony Stark sized ego, according to the director of the series. So we'll have to wait and see what trouble that gets her in. Eyes of Wakanda coming out on the 6th of August, animated series. Actually looks pretty bomb from the little bit of clips that we saw. So I'm going to be interested to see what happens with that one. Marvel Zombies, obviously connected to What If, carrying on from like the Zombies episode we got in season 2. I'm really stoked for that, to be fair. It looks like that's going to be a lot of fun. And again, movie characters coming back to be voiced by their original actors as well. Like Elizabeth Olsen's coming back to voice Scarlet Witch and so on. So that should be actually quite interesting. And then Wonder Man coming out in December. We obviously saw a little clip again in the Disney Plus sizzle reel, but we don't know a lot about that yet, and it's not a particularly well-known character. So, JD, do you know much about Wonder Man from the comics?
I've seen him in a lot of comics. I'm not really excited for this show. I don't think he's a very interesting character. So we'll see how it goes. But what's his name? Abdul, the guy who played Black Manta. Yeah, he is really awesome. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. We'll see. I need to know more. It's definitely not a super exciting character for me. As far as all of his appearances in the comics, nothing has ever really stood out to me. So we will see.
Well, in the direction they're taking with it, I actually thought it was canceled most recently, but when I thought it was happening, the description was something like, we follow around a Hollywood star in the world of superheroes, navigating, like, being a celebrity in this world where superheroes exist. And it kind of felt like it was almost going to be, I'm not saying the same quality, but like a She-Hulk-ish type of style, where instead of an attorney, it's a celebrity, a Hollywood celebrity navigating this. But yeah, Yahya has been great in everything I've seen him in. So I'm not excited, but I'm curious, a little curious.
And then we've got the last two, and probably I would say the biggest two projects for Marvel next year. Coming out on the 25th of July, we've got the Fantastic Four. So going head to head that month with the new Superman film as well. So that's going to be interesting for the box office. But obviously, a lot of people have been clamoring for Marvel and the MCU to have the Fantastic Four, especially after the last shocking movie that we got from Fox on that front. So it's going to be a lot of anticipation for this one. Yet to have a proper trailer for it as well, have we? There was the leaked one from Comic-Con a few months back. So this surely is going to be Marvel's biggest film of 2025, Dave. What do you reckon?
I mean, I'm really excited for Fantastic Four. I think box office wise, I think it's going to win the box office competition with Superman, actually. And I think it's tough, man. It's tough. Either one of these could win at these movies here, but Fantastic Four, I think, has a lot going for it. And more than anything, I'm just so curious to see what the plot is going to be and how they're going to use Galactus and stuff and bring them into this universe. So I'm more excited about just getting information than even seeing the movie almost. But I think it's going to be a fun movie. It's got a great cast. And yeah, if I had to put my vote in, I'm going to vote on Fantastic Four beating Superman, but we'll see.
And JD, they have been pretty sparse about details with the film, and especially in terms of, we know where it's set, but is it our universe? Is it a different universe? Are they coming to our universe at the end? What's cracking with it? But what are your thoughts on it?
So I have a lot of thoughts. First of all, very excited. Second of all, third time is a charm, please. I mean, with Fantastic Four just not doing great in the past, I think they're going to take so much care in this movie. And Kevin Feige has his creative control authority back now that Iger's back and CEO instead of Bob Chapek, which Chapek just pretty much stripped Feige of a good percentage of his power to have that creative control. And Feige's the guy. If he has his creative control, he's going to take such good care of these characters. So we got confirmation it is going to be in a different universe. They're not in the 616. That's not how they're starting anyway. I think obviously they will end up in the 616. I think this is going to be so important for the overall story of Marvel going into Doomsday. I think that I hope they're escaping an incursion. I think that would just be really juicy, and I think that would lead into the Doomsday and Secret Wars very well. If they are in a different universe and come to the 616 escaping an incursion, I think that Dr. Doom, I'm really hoping that Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom has at least a couple seconds of screen time or something. I hope he's introduced in this movie, basically. And since he looks identical to Tony Stark, I really don't think he's from the 616. That would make zero sense. So I think the only way to make sense of that is he is from the Fantastic Four universe. He is primarily, he's a Fantastic Four villain. And I think,
agreed.
I think they're going to escape an incursion, or their universe is going to die because of an incursion. They are able to escape into a different universe, leading them right into the 616. And I think Doctor Doom follows them. So that kind of explains, I mean, a variant could be anything. Loki could be an alligator. So Doctor Doom could look like Tony Stark. And here they come to the 616, Doctor Doom following them. They survive. Now we have Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom in the 616. So I think it's going to be really, really important. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Galactus. I mean, all that stuff is just really exciting.
Yeah, agreed with you. Different universe, come to ours because of some world-ending event. Tony Stark, the variant Doom, Doctor Doom follows them through, and that's how he ends up in the 616, ready for Doomsday film. So, absolutely agree that's the way it's going to go. But yeah, I am actually excited for this film. It's been a long time coming to get a really good Fantastic Four. I was never 100% sure of the set on the cast when they announced it, but the closer it gets, the more I think how it could just feel right and how it could feel good, because they're already going to be established superheroes. We're not going to have to go through everything as them youngsters and getting their powers and building up together. It's going to be already there as a team. They're going to be set together and crack on. So I'm really excited for this film. But my most anticipated and the project I am most excited for, the one I've saved for last, around of our Marvel chat, coming on the 4th of March, Daredevil Born Again. I am so fucking stoked for this. It's just as well Caleb isn't here, because I would have to slap the shit out of him for not watching the rest of Daredevil yet. So I am absolutely stoked for this. JD, how about you?
Oh, unbelievably stoked. Netflix Daredevil is my single favorite comic book series TV adaptation. It's so incredible. And my God, we're pretty close to having that be mediocre, because I don't know if you are aware of all the changes, Andy, but I mean, a lot of that was shot during the Chapek Marvel era, and Iger comes back, Feige comes back with his power, and he went in there and scratched it. He went into the studio, saw what they had cooking, and he was like, I do not like this flavor. Toss it out. We're starting from scratch. And since that happened, thank God, I have very high hopes and a lot of confidence going into this. We're hearing like quotes about it's almost as scary and dark as Game of Thrones, which that could be a reach, but I don't care if it's going in that direction. I'm good with it. It doesn't, if it was 100% reaching Game of Thrones levels in that aspect, that's almost too much for Daredevil. I'm okay with it if it reaches 60-70% of what they're saying towards Game of Thrones darkness, intensity. That is awesome. And there's so much to look forward to. And then he's in the MCU now. I mean, his She-Hulk thing, that's fine, but this is his actual show in the MCU. I want to see some connective tissue. I want to see how it ties in. I just want to see Kingpin and Daredevil. I want to see Muse. That villain is really cool. He's only had like a single comic from what I'm aware of that was focused on him as the villain anyway. And it was incredible. He's an awesome villain. It's I'm just, I couldn't be more excited.
I mean, as we know, Dave, he's a really good lawyer. And so how could we expect anything less than a great show?
I don't. My expectations are dangerously high on this one. I just like JD covered most of it. But yeah, when you first hear that they had to rewrite a bunch of stuff because you didn't really see Daredevil in his costume until episode 8 of a 20-episode season, you got a problem. You got a problem. We've already seen him in the costume in multiple projects in the MCU, not even including Netflix. So why in the world would you wait 8 episodes to show him in his glory? We're done. It's gone. They fixed it. It's just wild to think that they almost did that. I can't freaking wait for this. Seeing John Bernthal returning as Frank Castle and that scene with the hatchet. I mean, there's nothing in these trailers that doesn't get me excited. And what was the it's not White Tiger, is it? Is that the name of the other character showing up?
Yeah.
It is. Okay. Yeah. So I think that looks sick too. Bullseye is returning. I mean, I'm so excited for this. So yeah, Caleb has got to get his ass in gear.
Foggy and Karen going back as well. They weren't originally. We know they weren't, and then changes brought them back.
And Vanessa is original.
The original Vanessa, because she's been recast, wasn't she? So
Yeah.
Oh no, she is recast. I thought. No, she's coming
No,
back.
they originally recast her, and now they're bringing back the original actress.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
news to me. Thank God, she's
Yeah.
awesome. I love her.
Yeah. So yeah, this is by far like I'm probably even more hyped to this than I am Andor, and everyone knows like my Star
Same.
Wars is probably at top of everything for me, in terms of what I've got love for. But you guys know individually the love I have for Daredevil series, the Netflix stuff and the Punisher stuff. So to get them back, I will be sat on my sofa on the 4th of March, tissues in my hand, just waiting for that show to start.
Happy tissues.
As Deadpool says, get your nerd socks out.
Guys, I think you really need to have a word with your co-host, because look at this ridiculous comment here.
Oh,
He's a liar.
It's a throwback to when I was commenting on your show when you were live and said that a similar reverse thing, I think. So thank you.
Don't let Caleb fool you.
I appreciate that.
He got rid of Lord of the Rings. Out of our 3 choices, he took Lord of the Rings out of the picture.
Wow, I forgot about that. Well, once Lub finishes season 2 there, obviously we've talked about it before. You will be joining us for our little season 2 episode recap of Daredevil, which we got to get to because we only have 4 months till that drops, and we got season 2 and season 3 of that show. But Andy, you've made the request, and we have happily obliged to bring you on for that episode.
Yeah.
So we're going to get that going.
Never begged for anything, but as soon as I saw you guys covering Daredevil season 1, I messaged Dave and went, I will nosh all of you off if I can come on season 2 review, and I will talk to death about it. That's probably my favorite single series of a TV show I've ever had. So it's been the superhero stuff anyway. So Caleb says he'll get it done before Born Again comes out. So that's all good,
man.
Oh yeah, and Star Wars is going to have a new movie in a couple of years. Yeah.
But yeah, that's all the big Marvel and Star Wars news that's been out in the last few weeks. So get on now to Rings of Power season 2, just sort of chat and review. Off the back of season 1, which I kind of enjoyed, to be fair. I know a lot of hardcore Lord of the Rings fans weren't. I think the problem here is they don't have the rights to like every era of Lord of the Rings, so they've tried to shoehorn a lot of things in to just to bring a bit of star power sometimes to it. As we know in this series, the name of Gandalf finally got dropped at the end. When, as far as I'm aware, from the book timeline, he should be nowhere near this time period. I'm sure Dave has a lot of comments to say about this sorts of thing. Let's start off then with sort of the overall plot of the show. So to me, there were like the 2 big points of this season where obviously the making of the rings. This season we got like the 7 dwarven rings and the 9 rings for men, and the manipulation of Celebrimbor into making them. And then a big plot to this, I think, because a lot of this series concentrates on Sauron. We do get the side points from other characters that we'll have a quick chat about, but the main point of this was also Sauron building himself up, the deception that he can bring to everyone, and we do get more to his backstory, which brings more to his character in this season. So, Dave, you're the Lord of the Rings man here. Let's get your initial thoughts then on the overall plot for season 2.
But thoughts on the plot. I was very nervous because, like you said, it was very Sauron centric, and Sauron is one of the most mysterious, iconic villains out there. Like, he's very well known. He's one of the most powerful villains across fandom, but you don't really know a lot about him unless you've read the Silmarillion or, backstories there. I mean, again, I am not going to get into it, but there's points in the Lord of the Rings lore where Sauron is a werewolf at a point, and there's a lot of weird stuff that that character has gone through, transformed into, done. So I was nervous how they were going to do it. Like you said, they didn't have full rights. They only have rights to the 3 books and the appendices. They don't have any of the Silmarillions, any of that stuff. So I was nervous that they were going to be touching this iconic character and putting a face on him. And I thought they did a really good job of the way they did it with the rings being crafted. The manipulation of Celebrimbor I thought was done beautifully. The hallucinations and everything Sauron was able to put together. They nailed that part for me, and that was going to be the biggest concern going into the season. So once Sauron was done well, I could rest easy. Overall, as a story, I thought it was solid. We got the Balrog, we got the Siege of Eregion, which I thought was lacking. The Siege of Eregion itself, we can get into that, but as a whole, I thought the story was done well, and I really enjoyed the season.
And JD, what about you on the sort of overarching story for the season 2?
Yeah, I liked it, especially what Dave said about Sauron. That's the most important thing for me with this. And they nailed it. They really nailed it. Sauron probably wasn't the top 3 villain of all time for me just because of his limited content. But after this, I really feel like I might want to put him in a top 3 all-time villain because they're building that backstory so well, and he's done so well. He's so manipulative, and the writing with that is just so sinister. So that was really cool. It has a lot of down points. Like a lot of the other side stories don't interest me. Gandalf's introduction, as exciting as it was to hear him say Gandalf, I think back and I'm just like, that should have been a lot more epic. That should have been a lot cooler to see his story, coming up to actually naming him. That falls short, and it's Gandalf. He's one of my favorite characters from childhood and everything. He's just one of the coolest, and so I hope to see a lot more of that in season 3. I love the dwarves. I love the Cause of Doom stuff going on there. The relationship with Durin and his dad was really good and emotional, and his dad went out with a bang going against a Balrog. That was really nerdy and awesome. But the important thing was Sauron. I did like the Siege of Eregion. I think, and we talked about it on our pod, that maybe the action choreography itself wasn't the best thing ever. But I think it did feel pretty epic, especially for a TV series. It felt really awesome. Like I was so invested in that siege. We might not have gotten the best sword play, or we might not have gotten anybody skateboarding downstairs shooting arrows at people. We might not have gotten the volley of arrows coming from thousands of bad guys running towards you, the front line being taken down by arrows. That kind of stuff is really fun, but we didn't get like the coolest action. But I just think just overall big picture, it was epic and really fun. I like season 2 better than season 1. I think it's really building really well. I'm glad they are going to continue this series. I'm really excited to see where it goes. If they go on the same pace, season 3 should be even better than season 2. And, I've liked all the seasons so far. So it's a really cool entry into the Lord of the Rings universe.
Amy saying that I loved when Sauron threw that elf he flirted with over the battlements. So that was
a jaw-dropping one. I was like, whoa, damn.
I mean, I think Sauron was done really well. I heard a few people mention that because of the fact of obviously how he does change his appearance a lot in the books, how they were disappointed he wasn't maybe recast for season 2 to have a true different person playing him. Because I don't think when he changes into Anatar, I don't think he necessarily suited that look, the actor that we see from like the rough Halbrand of season 1, and changing over to this, how he looks as Anatar in season 2. It just didn't quite have the same impact for me. So maybe recasting him as obviously someone that would have been a bit more gracious elf looking would have been maybe a touch better. But overall, I do enjoy it. I mean, what I want to touch on actually is how they did his backstory, because this is one of my sticking points for season 2 is the backstory they showed of him, obviously after the defeat of Morgoth, to try to rally the troops to him, and it doesn't happen, and he's sort of like stabbed to death, but the black goo escapes, and then he's just feeding on rats and bugs and stuff over time, and then manages to get his way out and eats that woman or whatever on the on the little trolley, and then turns into Halbrand. And we see how he gets on to being on the boat that gets destroyed and how he comes across Galadriel. That to me kind of counteracts the story we were almost shown at the start of season 1, when Galadriel was trying to hunt down and all these clues and signs pointing to the return of Sauron and his symbol being everywhere. And it sort of like just seemed that that's a contrast from season 1's story of trying to find what happened after that battle and finding Sauron still around, to the backstory they told us in season 2. I mean, Dave, what are your thoughts on this? Because to me, it kind of was, it struck out as being contradictory to me and didn't seem to sit right for me. That was my probably biggest sticking point for season 2.
I agree. Episode 1, it wasn't one of my favorites because of the way we started out. This flashback didn't land for me. One, because like you said in the prologue, we see Sauron in full gear with all the orcs kneeling at him, and he's got his arm and he's leading the orcs. And then we go back and he's like pleading to the orcs. He's like making a campaign speech about why they need to follow him, and is like, he like needs the acceptance of the orcs and for them to crown him. which that didn't feel like. He's always been the Lord of the Dark. He was the lieutenant of Morgoth running the orcs. It didn't feel genuine that Sauron would be making this campaign speech to a group of orcs, like trying to get their loyalty, when we already saw him leading the orcs in the prologue with Galadriel hunting. So yeah, that didn't really land for me that well. The black goo is whatever. I didn't like the actor, actually. He looked like Martin Sheen. He just looked really goofy, and I could not take him seriously as a Sauron figure. So then the whole thing with the boat too, with Galadriel. So it turns out it really was just a coincidence. It wasn't Sauron's master plan. He just ended up taking the guys who were going on that boat's body and ended up running into Galadriel into the middle of the ocean. So that I didn't need that explained, because that made it seem like even more of just a wild coincidence that Galadriel just ran into Sauron out in the ocean after hunting him for so many years. And so yeah, that start to it, I didn't enjoy.
Fair. JD, what were your thoughts on the manipulation of Celebrimbor into obviously making this the Elvish, the Dwarven rings, and then obviously the complete and utter decimation really of Celebrimbor to make the 9 rings, and then his demise at the end?
Oh, dude, it was my favorite part of the whole series. I thought that was written so well. Everything from literally changing his view, his sight, he changed Celebrimbor's reality to where he thought there was peace and normal day-to-day stuff going on outside. And then when Anatar walks outside and then the view just switches to war and chaos, I thought that was beautiful. Yeah. And him having Celebrimbor start acting so crazy, even though he's actually figuring out the truth, figuring out reality. As he's figuring out reality, Anatar is making him seem crazier and crazier. And the crazier he seems, the more he is understanding the truth. And that was beautifully written. He had Celebrimbor ostensibly like throw this girl off the wall. That was such a crazy moment. And the creation of the rings, like that was the core of the whole show. And I was just so invested in that whole story. It was so well told. It's so manipulative. Like I said, he's just so sinister, and they just did a really good job with that. And that could have came across any number of ways, but they kind of nailed it.
Fair. Dave, let's talk about your favorite sort of group in this particular series. Gandalf and the Harfoots. I mean, I'm going to say about the whole naming of, or Gandalf finding his name sort of situation. I don't know why. It kind of makes me feel a bit like when they give Han his name in the Solo film. It just felt like a ridiculous thing in the way that he just finds his name that way. It just sounds similar to this. That's what they're going to call me. So, you're Solo. Okay, let's call you Han Solo. That's what it just felt like to me. But this whole side story between Gandalf and the Harfoots and the Hobbits, to me, was actually detracted from both series, because it's just not really needed anywhere, and it's not so far to me really had any impact on the overall. Just because the whole really the story for me in these two series is about the dwarves, the elves, and Sauron. So I really want to see more of that, and the Gandalf and Hobbit story has been a very much a side quest sort of thing for me. So how are you feeling about their parts in this story?
Yeah, so least favorite part of season 1 was the Harfoots. There are some good scenes. I won't say it. There's some fun scenes, some funny stuff with them traveling and the creativity of how they hide and all that the first season. But on my rewatch, I skipped the Harfoot scenes because I just wasn't interested. I don't like the name creation. Like you said, it felt super forced. Tom Bombadil tells him nobody can tell you what your name is, and then they proceed to call him Grandalf 5 times in a row, and he goes, Gandalf, oh hey, that's the name. So that felt silly and forced. You said it earlier, he's not supposed to be here until the Third Age, so I get that they changed that. I just felt like it was unnecessary. All the lines they gave him of Gandalf's lines from the trilogy, they just kept kind of shoehorning into his dialogue in this. So I don't like it. At the end of season 1, I convinced myself to be like, you know what, fine, it's Gandalf, get over it. They changed it, move on, maybe it'll be all right. And then halfway through season 2, I was like, actually, I take it back. I don't like this. I don't accept this. So I didn't enjoy it. And I guess the main point of the whole Harfoots thing, where I think they're getting to the origin of the Shire. We saw the Stores, that new kind of group of halflings, and they talk about this oasis, this place that is prophesized to be, and they basically describe the Shire. green hills, water flowing, holes in the ground. So I think unfortunately, I think they're going to be included in season 3, and they're going to show their trek out to the Shire, which I love the Shire. I love the Hobbits, but I don't need that in this series right now. I don't. So no part of this Harfoot thing gets me going here. And I'm really going to be pissed if that other dark wizard is supposed to be Sauron. They didn't call him it. I'm hoping it's one of the blue wizards. We don't know a lot because we know they went east and one turned evil. So he could be one of the dark blue wizards. But if it's Sauron, it's another thing where it's forced. He didn't come until the Third Age either. And Gandalf trusted Sauron in the Third Age during the finding of the ring with Frodo. So it would make no sense that he already knows he turned villainous at this point. So yeah, I don't think I liked one aspect of. No, I will say Tom Bombadil. I was worried about that. I didn't think it was bad. I thought they did him pretty well as you can do a ridiculous character who is just confusingly he's like the god of the world, but he's also this bumbling kind of just hippie. So I don't know. I didn't enjoy the Harfoot Gandalf stuff though.
2 quick comments from Amy over on YouTube. So the Moth women continue to be unnecessary, which is absolutely fair. And then the Mithril Moon writing was haphazardly thrown into the season. I would assume it becomes more relevant in season 3 rather than just shoving it in. It did seem like they were trying to put it in there just to show what Celebrimbor could do with Mithril and stuff like that. But it's also nice to see, I guess, little nuggets here and there that show towards bits that we've seen in the film.
It might have been forced fan service, but I will say I got excited, and I think me and JD were talking about it too. It was like, that's the door for Moria. Hey, that's dope. All right.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly the worst thing to have thrown in there, but I can see how it's slightly forced just to be a bit of fan service into going, look what we've done. But JD, we get to see obviously a lot more of Khazad-dûm and the dwarves in this series, and how we were always told that the Rings of Power didn't corrupt the dwarves, but just enhanced their greediness and their want for power and gems and gold and stuff like that. We also get to see the Balrog thrown in as well. So a lot going on there. It just seems like they're throwing every bit from the original films that was never supposed to be around at this time into everything at the same time. But what are your thoughts on the Dwarven story for season 2?
I think the Dwarven story was very well told. It gave you another aspect of how the rings corrupt people outside of Celebrimbor, who never really wore a ring. He was just creating them. This is the aspect of the wearer of the ring being corrupted. And it wouldn't have worked unless we had that son figure that had that emotional tie to his father. It made it that much more devastating that he was getting corrupted. You don't want to see father and son fighting like this. They were actually just getting onto good terms. So the emotional tie there was very well written, and just seeing how the ring corrupts people, because we haven't really seen the corrupting side of things with the elves yet. And we know they're more resilient to that kind of thing, but the dwarves, less resilient. That thing was corrupting him right away. And you saw the damage that literally brought the Balrog out. Without that ring, he's not digging there. They already made plans and said, we're not digging this far deep. We can't. That's like a rule for them because of the Balrog. So the corruption leading to all the conflict with father and son, which was really sad, but that's really good storytelling there. That we're tied so emotionally to that relationship. And bringing about the Balrog is awesome. I wonder if the Balrog is what kind of killed everyone in that cave when we go into Fellowship. You wonder if his release caused all that. But really excellent way, showing how the ring works and the emotional tie there. So I'm really happy that side of the story was there.
Dave, you may be able to correct me on this one, but in the books were the Balrogs servants of Morgoth or Sauron at some point?
Yeah, so the Balrogs are actually the same species as Gandalf and Saruman. They're one of the Maya, and the Istar, which are the wizards, is kind of a branch of the Mayas. But yeah, the Balrogs are corrupted Mayas. So they once were, they're kind of like the orc version of Mayas that were twisted and corrupted into this dark being, but they used to be beings of light. And yeah, the Balrog that we've got in there that we saw is known as Durin's Bane, because of what happens, and we see the results in the Moria in the trilogy and whatnot there. So I think that one specifically was like one of the head lieutenants of Morgoth.
Because I was just thinking more in terms of what JD said about whether the Balrog would be the one that caused all the death of them that we see in Fellowship when they turn up there. And I was thinking that, I suppose, because I was thinking, they probably all just got killed by the orcs and goblins and stuff that were overwhelmed them in the mines and stuff like that. But guessing if the Balrog was there as well and took charge, because obviously they all scamper when the Balrog shows up and like, the big bad's hit, we don't need to do nothing. We can just sit back and watch this rather than scampering away in fear, so to speak. So, I mean, are you hoping we see the Balrog a bit more in season 3, or are you just thinking like done and dusted now for that, and it's just a myth left to be there for the imagination?
I think he might be in the depths now. I don't know where they're going with this dwarven thing. I don't know if they're going to dig up more Mithril, but I think it would make sense that he's in the depths until they break out before we see the results of the Fellowship.
I think we need some more Mithril, don't we? I mean, Frodo needs his armor.
That's true. They have. Wait, did they show that yet? No, I guess they didn't.
No.
So yeah, they still need to construct. Yeah, no, we see that in the Hobbit trilogy. So they still got to make Mithril shirts. So maybe they do start digging one more time, and we get another cataclysmic event with the Balrog before the trilogy. We still have 1,000 or 2,000 years. So
yeah, long to go, isn't it? Just a touch longer to go.
Yeah, a little bit.
And obviously, I'll throw the last group in this season out to both of you in terms of what you thought of them. But obviously, we're talking about the elves. It's the dynamic between Galadriel and Elrond in this series. I mean, Elrond pisses me off at times in this series. So self-righteous.
Me too.
So, the rings, they corrupt all of us. I'll shut the fuck up and just put it on and use it. So the dynamic between them it does annoy me a little bit at times. Like Elrond was more annoying, I think. They're obviously very different characters to what we see in I know these aren't connected to Peter Jackson's trilogy of films, so to speak, because this is sort of separate in its own thing. But still, these characters are so far removed from the people that we know about and we're used to seeing. They're almost reversed in what they see, and then whether it's character building and they change into the characters we see, so Elrond becomes more battle hardy and more skeptical, and Galadriel becomes more peaceful and just sort of at one with everything and her powers and stuff. So whether you can class that as just opposite writing or character development, I'm not sure. But JD, tell us your thoughts on the elves and their story in their part of season 2.
I agree with you. Elrond annoyed the crap out of me for a while, even in season 1. I think that turned towards the end of season 2. I was kind of on board with what he was doing and how he was doing it. He was fine at the end of season 2, but even at the beginning, he was extra annoying. Like literally Galadriel would tell him like, let's go this way. And he'd be like, nah, I don't think so. Let's go the other way. Just because he thinks she's corrupted by the ring. He's just like not taking her advice, stuff like that. Like I said, towards the end, he was better, but I like King Gil-galad. I actually really like King Gil-galad now, and I didn't like him in season 1. And I still really like Galadriel. She didn't have as much screen time as season 1, it seems like. Not as much time to shine. But the elves are fine for what they're worth. You know, it's like the Khazad-dûm stuff was more. They didn't do a ton. You know, they were kind of third place behind Celebrimbor, Annatar, Khazad-dûm, elves, and then the Hobbit characters. You know, the Harfoots and Gandalf. Yeah. So they were good, you know, and I'm glad Elrond came around. I didn't want to be annoyed with him the whole time, so I'm glad he kind of stuck it out. He had some really cool scenes in that siege of Aragion. He was kicking ass there. It was crazy that they kissed. There was no romantic build up to that, but even though it was just a trick to kind of transfer the ring or whatever that was, but elves were fine. Yeah.
Dave?
Yeah, didn't like that kiss. Felt super forced, and Galadriel's supposed to have a husband right now, but I'm not going to stick on that. They changed things. That's not the aspect that bothered me. That just seemed totally forced. They played the score, like this romantic score rose as they kissed too, and it's like, it was okay. But anyways, the elves I thought were done better than season 1. There were a lot of complaints in season 1. One being, why do they all have short hair, like short curly hair? Like, why isn't there one elf who has long straight hair? Like, it's not that hard.
Yeah. Just say something on that point. I saw a great thing on TikTok where someone said, aliens with pointy ears, if they've got long hair, they're elves from Lord of the Rings. If they've got short hair, they're Vulcans.
Yeah.
So
Elrond looked like a Vulcan for sure.
If they have long hair, they should be elves. If they've got short hair with pointy ears, then they should be Vulcans.
Sorry, no, it's pretty simple rules there, though. No, I mean, it was weird. Season 1, it was just like, why are they all short-haired elves here? So people had complaints. I still liked them in season 1, but I thought they nailed it. There were a lot of elves that looked like the quintessential elf kind of look. I like the costume design we got. They looked very regal and, not heavy armored, but still looked badass. I really liked the outfits they were wearing when Galadriel and Elrond went on that little quest and took out the Barrow Wights. So yeah, I thought the elves' looks looked great. High King Gilgalad had a glow up. He looked dope in his armor, fighting in the battles at the end. So for the most part, I like the elves. There was, Elrond annoyed me a little more this season than he did last, but we did start to see that development because he was, almost a cleric. He wasn't a warrior elf. He wrote poetry and he was doing this and that and whatnot. He was a politician almost a little bit, but not a warrior. So we saw him break into that because we know he's going to be a warrior going on into the future here. So that was cool. I still enjoyed him as a whole. I liked Galadriel. I liked her whole conflict dealing with Sauron's manipulation and fighting that. Can she trust her own feelings now that Sauron has successfully manipulated her? And I liked the whole setup of Eregion. So I thought they killed it with the elves' design and everything. The battle, again, I had issues, but the concepts, the designs themselves, I enjoyed the elves this year.
Fair. I know there's a few sort of maybe groups or points I haven't touched on in terms of obviously Adar and the orcs and their sort of story, but again their story just tied into the fact of like everyone wanting to stop Sauron, like Sauron getting the best and manipulating every group in this series pretty much, whether it was up close or from afar. And for obviously Sauron basically gets his revenge almost the same way that he did it to him, wasn't it? So just poetic justice maybe for Adar at the end. And the one thing I guess I didn't touch on, Numenor and their sort of little story in this. Again, I found their story a bit of a distraction. Maybe I'm interested in Numenor and their story because I've heard bits about obviously what happens in the books and how important they are to like the story with Sauron, but we don't seem to see a lot of that here. And Amy mentions, what about the Numenor's way of choosing their ruler? I don't know whether that was like throwing them into like the depth and be faced by that monster who judges them, or what's going on, or the fact that the eagle shows up and they sort of manipulate into thinking that the eagle was there to say he supported Pharazôn, or what the fuck happened there. But
yeah, I didn't get that. I didn't get there were cool concepts with Numenor, like the eagle showing up. It's a cool concept. The sea monster, cool concept, but the execution of it, I didn't get the point. Yeah, the eagle. I didn't get how an eagle showing up got Pharazôn to be the leader at that point. He even said earlier, if an eagle shows up at this, yada, yada, it'll be like when your father was doing this and it'll be a sign that, you're chosen or whatever. And then the eagle shows up and he's like, all right, I guess I'm king. It's like, what the hell? What? So yeah, the Numenor thing, I thought they had good concepts and bad execution. I think we're going to get a lot more of them in season 3 because the fall of Numenor is a big event. Yeah. Isildur and Elendil are obviously big. We saw the Flame of the West, Anduril, given to Elendil, which was dope. That's the sword that takes Sauron's finger off and Aragorn wields in the trilogy. Yeah. So again, cool concepts here and there, but I agree, 90% of the Numenor storyline I did not care for. That backstab, though, that was intense. That my jaw dropping. That was a rough death to deal with. But yeah, overall, not great.
And JD, I don't know how you feel about this, so you can obviously tell me, but when we see some of the characters that we know are going to come on to be like, obviously we don't necessarily see them in the original trilogy, but become kings of men and big characters that we've seen, like massive statues being built of and stuff like that. And you think, are really these the people that they're talking about in the future that have become like the kings of men and become worthy rulers of the lands of men and stuff? And you think, look at this guy, he's an absolute wet wipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Numenor stuff I haven't really liked, except in like the middle of season 2. I thought it got really, really good. It had a total Game of Thrones feel there with a couple episodes with like when they were worshiping the dead and that asshole dude comes in and shuts them down, ends up killing a guy. They get into a fight. Him and Elendil get into a fight. It was getting really Game of Thronesy, and that guy's kind of the Joffrey character who's just so immature and petty and ridiculous that he just takes it too far and kills someone. So I'm really not invested in them yet. There's not a lot going on there because that was really short-lived also. That kind of Game of Thrones political thriller aspect to capturing Elendil because the leadership had changed and he's in prison now? I can't remember. So I'm invested in Elendil and Isildur. Farazone, I can't stand. I don't really like Farazone. It sounds like he might end up
slime ball.
Yeah, he's not a lot of interesting stuff going on there, but since I got a hint of that in season 2 for a couple episodes, they actually did some pretty cool stuff there. I'm willing to give them a chance, but they're definitely not the most exciting thing about this show yet.
And then just very quickly, anything you really want to see in season 3? Obviously, I'm hoping to see the creation of the One Ring happen in this season, because I don't know how many more seasons they're planning on doing of this, but I would expect season 3, we see the 9 rings given out to the Kings of Men, maybe the fall of Numenor, and the One Ring itself being created at this point. So, JD, what do you think? What do you want to see in season 3?
The creation of the One Ring, for sure. I would love to see, they focused the ring stuff with the elves and the dwarves. So let's get the ring situation going over to the men. That's pretty exciting. I would really love to see the creation of the Nazgul, even if I don't know if the timeline's up there. I'm not looking forward to if the guy that I keep calling just a dickhead, but I don't know his name, but I'm really not looking forward to seeing if he gets a ring and the corruption. He's already corrupted as hell. And if he gets a ring, he's just going to be that much worse. Well, Dave, Elendil, is Elendil supposed to be important? Ring wearing or anything? Elendil's not going to be like turned into a Nazgul or anything anytime,
No, he shouldn't. I don't know what they're going to change, but he is in the battle of the prologue that we see in the Fellowship. He gets defeated by Sauron right before Isildur picks up his sword and takes his finger off. So Elendil is fighting for men. So he shouldn't wear a ring of power and be a Nazgul. I would be very upset because that's Aragorn's not heir. Why can't I think of the other opposite?
The prologue of Fellowship, Isildur, wasn't he like the freaking king or something? Or did they say he was the son of the king? I remember something super important that tied directly to Rings of Power. That was like when they were talking about Isildur cutting the ring off Sauron's finger. It was like he was the king or he was the son of the king or something.
He was the son of the king. Elendil was the king when the battle started, and Elendil got killed in the battle. And so Isildur stepped up, took the sword, and then was basically the king at that point. So that's why when he took the ring, he was leading the men of Numenor out of there and got ambushed and all that. But so he was the prince, I guess, of Numenor.
That could be really cool, seeing Elendil kind of come back from the underdog and become the king. That would be an awesome thing going on there with Numenor. But I want to see Elendil rise. I want to see the ring. I want to see the One Ring. And for sure, let's get after the men in the rings because they get the most corrupted, right? That'll be a lot of fun. And they have the most rings. The more corrupted the species gets, the more rings they get, which that's by design, probably.
Well, and now I'm thinking they might have not even been the king of Numenor, actually, at that point. They might have already established Gondor, and then he was the king of Gondor at that point, but I'm not positive on that. But we could see the creation of Gondor happening. We're going to see the fall of Numenor for sure.
Anything specific, Dave, you want to see in season 3?
I think I had something that I put on there, and I can't exactly recall. I'm going to pull up my notes here. I'm curious to see what happens with Elrond and Durin because they're still on good terms here, but we know that's going to fall because in the Fellowship, Elrond talks about dwarves being stubborn. They care nothing for others except for their gold in their mines. They're greedy, stubborn beings. So there's a fallout there somewhere. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen with Elrond and Durin. Durin's brother is coming for the throne, we learn. So I'm very curious to see what happens with that too, with the dwarves. So I just think I really want to see the Nazgul, the 9 selected. I'm really curious to see what we do with the 9 and the men that are selected. And I think Rivendell is going to get constructed. So I think that would be a cool little thing to see too, because I think that's where they were at the end of the season here. It looked like they were in what was going to be future Rivendell. So yeah.
Nice. Well, I don't know when season 3 will be around, but looking forward to seeing what happens there. We're going to end with a couple of quick questions and some fun stuff just to lighten the mood at the end after some heavy ring talk. JD, you've got some questions for us.
All right, let's start with a would you rather. And this is just kind of goofy. So would you rather be a hobbit with Doctor Strange's powers and artifacts, or a Gandalf, but you're young, like maybe the human equivalent to like 25. So it's probably still a little dashing. You're not an old dude with white hair. So would you rather be a hobbit with Doctor Strange powers and artifacts, or Gandalf, but you could only live in Gotham City for the rest of your life?
Interesting.
Sorry, one more time.
So, would you rather be a hobbit with Doctor Strange's powers and artifacts, or Gandalf, but you are stuck in Gotham City the rest of your life?
I think if you're a Hobbit and Hobbiton with Doctor Strange's powers and artifacts, you could have a lot of fun with that, because all you care about is eating and drinking and similar stuff, and you can use portals to steal people's food from them and play tricks on them and stuff like that. I think that would be a lot of fun. Whereas it's Gandalf in Gotham, you just got all you're concentrating on is like defeating criminals, because you can't stand by and let evil be evil. You've got to do something about it, and so that's just constantly what's going to be on your mind. Although that robe's going to get dirty in Gotham as well. Whereas I feel like
you can change.
I feel like the Cloak of Levitation would do well in Hobbiton. So I think, I think personally I'd be stuck on the Hobbit. Hobbit is Doctor Strange, I think.
And this is present day though. Like in today's world, you're a hobbit, so you're short, you're hairy, you got the feet.
But am I in Hobbiton though? Didn't you say
you can be wherever you want? You got the Doctor Strange ring. You could freaking go wherever. It's present day, but you got to think of your love life too. You're super short and super hairy. Whereas Gandalf, he could have a love life in Gotham City, but it's just a shitty place to live.
Halfway there is me, to be fair, into that equation. So, I mean, apart from up here, maybe, but
I don't know how tall you are.
I'm a bit taller than a dwarf, than a hobbit. Sorry, so I think I'm all right. I'm more like Gandalf height, I think.
There you go. I was gonna say I would go with the Hobbit, because I thought at first you said a Hobbit in the Shire with Doctor Strange's powers. So regardless, I was gonna say I'll take a Hobbit in the Shire with no powers over Gandalf anywhere, just because that seems like my freaking this seems like heaven to me. I'm gonna take Hobbit with the Doctor Strange powers. I don't want to deal with Joker and having to deal with that guy and having the responsibility of saving Gotham constantly. I'm gonna go see what the world's got to offer for a hairy-footed man.
Although Gandalf has no qualm in killing people, unlike Batman, so we could just kill Joker and be done with it.
Sick.
Get it over and done with.
Them all.
Turn him into something unnatural.
So Gandalf would be fun. Gandalf would be more successful at making Gotham a safer place than Batman.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, no offense,
for sure, 100%.
I still think I'd rather be a Hobbit with Stranger's powers, to be fair, and his artifacts. So,
but then you could choose Gandalf, fix Gotham in like a month or two, and then be super happy. Gotham's safe now. Gotham's chill, and you're a studly, freaking magic user, 25 years old.
I don't want to live in the city.
I know, right? We want some property. Where you want to put your chickens?
Yeah, bro.
I think the problem is I'm very corruptible. So if I was like a young Gandalf in Gotham City, once I got rid of all the criminals, I'd be like, I've got the power to take over, and everyone can do my bidding for once. So
you heard about that Kingpin Gandalf out in Gotham? Yeah, I guess he's taking over out there.
I'd turn into Saruman. So yeah, I think I would stick with a Hobbit with Stranger's powers is probably my choice there.
All right, hobbits across the board. All right, pick your favorite large battle from any Lord of the Rings property or any MCU movie. Out of those two, which one is your favorite?
Oh, that is a tough one, because we all know that the Battle of Helm's Deep is an absolute classic. Possibly even before the dead ghosts kick in, the Battle of Gondor was pretty brutal and savage. I still think maybe the Endgame, Avengers Endgame battle wins that, simply because the emotionalness that I have tied into that personally anyway, after 23 films building up to it. And Cap's just stood up there on his own, and he's like, he should have definitely said I could do this all day at that moment. How he didn't, I don't know. But then obviously the portals open, the music, everyone comes out, and it's just a big battle after that. That to me is probably, I'm more emotionally tied into that probably than I am the Lord of the Rings one. So I think because of that gets my vote, maybe just ahead of Helm's Deep, because every time I watch Helm's Deep, you're like, fuck me, I would shit my pants if I was there. Like, I'm that old guy quivering that fires the first arrow by mistake. That would probably be me. The brutality of those battles is absolutely epic in its own right, and it has every right to be up there as a choice for anyone. But I think the emotionalness for me tied into the Endgame one is the one for me.
Okay.
That's tough. JD, you want to go first?
I'll go with Andy's. Yeah, it's a lot more emotion involved. It's so nerdy, dude. I could leave my nerd sock away from me for Helm's Deep. I still love it so much, but I'm gonna need my nerd sock for those Avenger battles there. So I would have to pick that. Yeah.
Right, Deadpool, calm down. Get your special socks out, nerds. This is gonna be good.
Yeah, you got Wanda, like Spider-Man doing the kill mode, Wanda freaking messing up Thanos. The entrance of all these heroes that have been blipped away. That's such an epic entrance for everybody. So I'll do that.
Dude, this is hard. This is hard because Endgame, I mean, that battle was just incredible. You guys covered it. I mean, we got so many amazing, iconic moments in just that battle. And watching that in theaters for the first time, I had chills the entire time. Cap picking up Mjolnir. I mean, this is tough for me, man. I wanted to go straight to Helm's Deep. I think I would pick Helm's Deep over the Ride of the Rohirrim, the Pelennor Fields, and Gondor there. But God, the emotion. I'm a big emotion guy. And Helm's Deep makes me emotional in a way, but not in the same way. It's more of just absolute thrilled to be watching it. And it's just like Andy said, the tone and the atmosphere that scene sets. It's like, God, imagine being on that wall, watching 10,000 orcs with torches coming at you in the rain. Like, it's wild. But I think I gotta go Endgame. It feels wrong to say, but that's just an incredible battle, man. It just really was. Emotion pushes it over the edge. If there was some crazy emotional weight in Helm's Deep, I'd roll with Helm's Deep. But
all right, 3 across the board again. All right, 2 more actually. I thought I had 3. Who wins in a fight? Guardians of the Galaxy. It's Baby Groot, and let's take out Nebula and Mantis versus the Fellowship of the Ring. And also, the Guardians of the Galaxies cannot use guns or explosives.
Oh, okay.
Oh, interesting.
Is Gandalf involved in the Fellowship? He is in the Fellowship.
He is one of the Fellowship.
He's the first to die, but he was in the Fellowship.
Yeah, then you got to throw Mantis back in there or Nebula.
Okay.
It's interesting because hand to hand, any of them are pretty good. I'd love to see sort of a Gamora go up against Aragorn in a hand-to-hand combat fight. I think that
she's super strong. That was the wild card for me. So that's why I'm glad Gandalf's there, because he would need to take on Gamora. I don't even know if an arrow would take her out. I actually got an arrow to the head. Legolas could probably take Gamora out.
Yeah, she's not impenetrable, but she does have like super strength. And Nebula, kind of, she's not impenetrable, but you could just replace parts on her. Yes.
The Fellowship have the numbers to surround them because they've got a few more members, haven't they?
Got a few hobbits to jump on Drax's back.
I mean, I think Baby Groot alone takes out half of them because his ability.
Depends. He was getting pushed around so much in Guardians too. Like one time he had a cool thing where he got all his roots and grabbed some people, but other times he was just getting pushed around.
Well, I mean, maybe Baby Groot takes out the hobbits.
There you go.
Even those.
Well, the thing is, I think Star-Lord and Rocket are freaking dead quick.
Yeah,
they're gone.
Rocket with no guns or explosives.
Oh yeah, what is that?
He's just jumping around trees from left to right, and Legolas takes him out with one arrow.
Yeah,
I think I might. I mean, obviously, you got Drax is pretty powerful and stuff, and you could say the same for Gamora as well. But I think the Fellowship takes this one.
I'm taking Fellowship. Gandalf and Legolas. I think Legolas will freaking kill half of them from a distance. Tap, tap, tap. Done.
Yeah. I think I go Fellowship. I think Gandalf is one of the big tipping points there, and it all depends on if you let Gandalf be Gandalf or if you let Gandalf and Minas Tirith battle where he's just
right.
Stick. If you actually let Gandalf do his thing, I'm taking the Fellowship.
Me too. All right.
Well then, JD, what's your last one?
All right. Is Sauron inherently evil, or is he just misled in how he seeks to control, over chaos?
It's an interesting question, philosophically wise. I think his lust for power and control makes him evil at the end of the day, because you can't amass that level of wanting to have that amount of control and power over people without an innate need to be cruel to them at the same time. Because to have that amount of power and control over people, you have to be cruel to them. And to be cruel to someone, you have to have a little bit of evilness inside you. And the more you do it, the more evil you're going to get over time. And so for me, I would say yes.
Holy cow. I don't know if you heard that, but
wow. Batman and Joker fighting in JD's front room.
I want to compare it to Thanos. Thanos, I don't think is evil. He thinks he's doing the right thing. And I also want to compare it to Joffrey and Ramsay, who will just like rape people and torture people. I don't know if so. I mean, we haven't seen them torturing people. Have we? I mean, like, but it's all an ends to a mean. It seems like misled, bad guy for sure, but inherently evil. I never see him sit there and cause someone an immense amount of pain just for fun, which is evil. Maybe. So I don't know where I'm going with this. I don't know which side I would take with that.
So did you say, is he inherently evil?
Yeah.
Okay. Because first I took that as like, I don't think he started off like pure evil. He started good. He started as a Maya. He was a being of good, and he was kind of manipulated over time through Morgoth and greed and whatnot. So I think now, yes, I would say. I don't think he began pure evil. I think he began on a good path. But I would say now the Sauron we know, yeah, I would go with inherently evil. Just, I know he keeps saying in the Rings of Power, I don't want to dominate. I want to purify Middle Earth. I want to make it good and cleanse it.
But that's what evil people say.
Yes, exactly. Hitler wanted to cleanse things too. A lot of people have wanted to cleanse things in history. But yeah, I think that's just his way of manipulation at that point. I'm going to go with evil for sure.
Yeah, he is willing to wipe out full civilizations and just kill them off. So he's evil.
He actually did torture Gollum. Well,
true. I was thinking of that too.
But
again,
but yeah,
ends to a mean. He had to get information, but that's evil. He can do it other ways.
And whilst it's called a manipulation, it was essentially torture for what he did to Celebrimbor.
True. Yeah. What he
mental
Celebrimbor.
torture.
Yeah, he was willing to kill a girl just to prove to everyone that Celebrimbor was crazy. So that's evil.
Yeah.
Nice. Like those questions, JD. Thank you very much for bringing that to the table. Gentlemen, amazing. Thank you so much for jumping on to first ever live episode that I've done, to be fair, and for obviously the return of the Galactic Core podcast. It's been nice to have a break, but it's also great to be back and chatting nerd shit with the best nerd people possible. So, as always, I know we said it at the start, but tell everyone exactly where we can find the Why So Sidious podcast at home.
Why So Sidious Pod, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, the same name through all the social media platforms. And then YouTube, just Why So Sidious, a nerd podcast. I don't even know how it works over there on YouTube. There's no @ symbols, Why So Sidious, nerd podcast.
As always, I encourage you massively to go out and follow these guys. If you're not already, make sure you're listening to all their stuff. They've got loads of different stuff, from reviewing episodes and stuff like that up to their nerd therapy episodes, where they're just chatting general stuff. And they have their very own merch store. So please get out there, get your Why So Sidious merch. I've got mine, so there's nothing stopping you from getting yours. Please go out there and do it. I went for the black hoodie, sporting their new symbol. You can even get stuff with their old symbol on if you prefer the old sort of Joker face type symbol on there. So make sure you're out there getting their merch. Links on their Instagram or wherever else you can find the links for them. Make sure you're giving them a shout. As always, you can find the Galactic Core podcast. Sorry, Jenny, were you going to say something?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you at all. I was just going to say the Joker is hidden in our black logo as an Easter egg, and that is the red arc on the bottom is representative of the Joker smile.
Okay, nice.
Little Easter eggy.
Nice. I like that. It's still incorporating some of the old into the new.
Right. Sorry.
It's right. The Galactic Core podcast. You can always find us across TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and of course YouTube, where all the episodes do go on there. You can find the podcast as well across Spotify, Apple, anywhere at all like that where you listen to your podcast. Same as Why So Sidious. We're on pretty much every platform you can think of. I'll be back next week with the Sisters Assemble podcast to discuss Agatha and a bit more Marvel chat. So make sure you're tuning in for that next Sunday as well. But until then, as always, everyone,
the Force will be with you always. Thanks for tuning in to the Galactic Core Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. But until next time, go get your geek on.